All right, welcome to the next video in this series of how to play the game of Dice Baseball. In this game, we're going to talk about the game engine. So the game engine is here, it fits on one sheet of paper, and there are some other charts that you can use, but this is the main chart that you're going to use as long as it's just sort of a normal play within the game. I also wanted to talk about the dice that you're going to need. So you're going to need 3 D6 dice, one or really this one can be anything. We just need a 50-50 decider die. So if you have a decider die, you can use that with the dots or the blanks. That would be fine to use. You just need a way, since this is a 50-50 game, you just need a way to decide off of the batter chart up here or the pitcher chart. So D6 die, easy way to do that, or a D10 or whatever you have. Just half of whatever that is going to go up here and half is going to go down there. Or if you have the blanks and the dots, you could do that as well. Or you had a decider die from a game like Baseball Classics where you have the batter and the pitcher, right? So, and you need 2 D6 dice. Those D6 can look like anything. They can be the same color if you want. You're basically going to take a roll like this, and it's going to be a 2, 3, or a 23. So you're always going to go with a low number so they don't have to be different colors. And then you're going to need a D10. My D10 has a 0 for a 10, but maybe yours has a 10. And you can see that our rolls are 1 to 10. So the 0 is going to be a 10. So you just have to convert that in your mind. Here is the game engine chart, and this is really what makes the game unique. I think the cards are general. It's a little unique that there are no calculated gameplay values. It's only the statistics from the player's season. And the way that we can do that is through this game engine chart. Like I said, you roll the first die, and that is the decider die, 1 to 3. Goes to the batter chart, 4 to 6, goes to the pitcher chart. And maybe you're thinking, oh, well, this is just a normal old 50-50 game. Well, the thing that makes it unique, and this is a game that I've wanted to do for a very long time, but just I've had it in my mind and haven't really fleshed it out before. But what if we had a game that sort of was average at its default and then takes into account each individual pitcher's sort of special attributes that we can see through their statistics? So maybe you have a, who do we have before? Maybe you have a Joe Morgan type, right? Who has a very low strikeout percentage, but he's not getting a lot of hits, but he is a good contact hitter, right? So obviously he's not striking out a lot. He's not getting a lot of base hits, but he is staying off base. I mean, he's staying out of the K column. So how can we include some conditional statements that say if this player is X, so if he has a walk percentage less than 5%, we don't give him the default walk. Instead, he's going to ground out. So this is a player who's not going to walk a lot and get on base that way. They're going to be someone who's a contact hitter, and just some way to sort of reflect the people on the ends, on the poles, on the opposite sides of the spectrum, whether good or bad, right? So we have our decider die, and let's say it's a 4, and so we're going to go down to the pitcher chart, and let's say we did roll this 2, 3, and so we would just check the 23 here, and that would be a deep fly ball. Now, if you don't know what the symbols mean, I've got them all over here. So whether it's up here or here, you can sort of find out what everything means. You can go to the website, thegameofdicebaseball.com, and you can learn more or purchase other seasons. And so for here, this will be a fly ball deep. So FD is a deep fly out, you can see here. And that's a ball that's hit obviously deep to the outfield, to the warning track, to the wall, near the warning track, just a deep fly ball. And then you would take your D10, and let's say it's a 4. You would go to the fly out section, find your FD, and then just cross your 4 with the FD, and that would be a fly ball to center field. You can see 1 through 3 on the deep fly balls is to left. 4 through 6 is to center field, and then 7 to 9 is to right field. Now we do have a rare play, and what happens if you roll a 10 on any of these is that it triggers a rare play, and rare, unusual, and we'll say that. So we won't say necessarily that they're so rare like a triple play, but they are plays that are less common. It's not your regular ground out or fly out. But something else happens. Maybe it triggers another roll where you have sort of a situation where it's this or that, and you have to roll to find out what the result is. And sometimes it's just sort of the rare plays that make baseball fun and interesting, and I think will make your replay more interesting as well. If we rolled, let's say, a 3, now we would be looking at the batter, and then we roll a 1-6, and a 16 is here, and so we would be met with our first conditional. So let's find someone. Let's find a Dave Concepcion. Let's say Dave Concepcion is at bat. We have a 16, and we check first, and the conditionals are all in the yellow boxes with the gray around the numbers, and so they stand out. Otherwise, you're just going to use the default, and you can look at the defaults out here to the right. They all sort of line up, and the conditionals line up as well. So what happens is you're going to look to see if this in the yellow box is true. So if the hits for the batter is greater than 149, so 150 hits or more that the batter has, then you're going to use this single as a result. If this is false, if the hitter has less than 149 hits, let's say we have Joe Morgan, he only has 109 hits for the year. So if that's false, then you're going to take this white default outcome. So that would be a normal ground ball, and then you would roll your D10, and that would be a 1. And so on a normal ground ball, that would be right back to the pitcher. Pitcher makes the play to first. Or we have some runner advancement, some different rules that you can use for the different types of plays, and I'll go through those as well. So we would have a ground ball back to the pitcher, and then you would figure out if there were no men on base. Obviously, it would just be 1-3 on the putout, and that would resolve the at-bat. Now, if the batter instead were Dave Concepcion, Dave Concepcion has 166 hits for the year. So in this case, his hits are greater than 149, so that would mean that the result of the play is a single. So if you just take the default batting statistics, the batter is about a 238 hitter, 240, and that's actually the league average for 1970 to 1979, which is sort of what I'm covering here first. And so it works out well. The default player, sort of the average Major League Baseball player, is going to be at about a 238 hitter. And now if you add in, there's a hit here, that's an extra hit, and there's a hit here for a player who's batting 300 or more. So obviously if this were 36 and his average, it says average greater than 299, then he gets another single. So he would have 2 more opportunities, which would push him up. So this opportunity pushes the batter up to about a 275 hitter, and then 1 more opportunity for a base hit takes the batter over 300, so up to like 333 or something like that. There are some of these that are going to flip. So instead of a home run as a default, then a player with less than 5 home runs hits a single instead. Instead of a double, a high home run hitter, so anyone with 30 or more home runs, that becomes a home run. So we can just sort of build in these extra step ups based upon especially players that have exceptional sort of numbers and not average sort of numbers. Here, normally this is a single, but for a player who has less than 120 hits, it becomes a hard ground ball. So, and then it takes into account things like a player's strikeout percentage. So if it's a high strikeout player, then instead of walking, he strikes out. And if he's a high doubles player, instead of a single, it's a double. So it does sort of shift things around per batter, and you're always going to get a different kind of game, and it's going to be based on the players themselves. Now, if it comes down to the pitcher, pitchers have some separate sorts of things. So if we look at Mike Flanagan, we look at his, make sure that's on there right. If it came out to an 11, then we would, and it was off of the pitcher's side, we would check his batting average against. So if his average against is less than 241, so in other words, 240 or less, then this triple turns into a ground ball. So you can see here that his average is 245, so that would go to the default. So this is false. If his average is less than 241 for Flanagan, that's false. And so then we take the default value here. If his K percentage is greater than 25%, then instead of walking the batter, he strikes them out. There's a balk here. So if his balks are greater than 1, which it's not here, then you would choose the error on the play. The result of the play would be an error, and then you'd roll your D10 against the E column for the error to see which player made the error on the play. If the pitcher is given up greater than 249 hits instead of striking out a batter, then he gives up a walk. He's right at the cusp at 245, but it would still be, that would be a strikeout. But for a player like Dennis Martinez, he would, this would result in true. So if his hits were greater than 249, that would be a hit and not a strikeout, which, really is in line with his pitcher profile, right? He's not a big strikeout guy, but he does give up a lot of hits, 279 in 292 innings. Not a high walk pitcher necessarily, but he has a lot of innings pitched, so that keeps his whip pretty low as well. We have the hit home runs per 9, so you would check here. So is it greater than 1? No, so that's a double. His average, if the average is greater than 299, then his strikeout turns into a walk, which, that's not the case here. If his whip is less than 1, then the single turns into a fly ball, a shallow fly ball. His whip is greater than 1, so that would result in not that. Home runs per 9, if it's less than 0.4, then this home run turns into a double. Obviously, he is not in that space as well. And then a wild pitch, if it's greater than 9, which it's not, he has 9. So this would result in a false for Dennis Martinez. So then you would take the rare play chart. And then on the rare plays, you will roll your D10. If you wind up getting a strikeout, you roll your D10, and then you got your K chart here. You can't see it very well unless you get up close to it, but there is a strikeout swinging, which is just a K, and then there's a K with a little dot, and that says it's a strikeout looking. So it's about 50-50 on here, 60-40 of the strikeouts looking and the strikeout swinging. We have a foul out here. So on the batter chart, there's a foul out, and so you can see who caught the foul ball, including outfielders. So outfielders corner outfielders get a chance to catch that fly ball. We have each of our flyout results have they have a sort of a fielder finder, and then we have our rare plays for each type of category. Okay, so that is the game engine chart. I plan for each decade that I do to include that game engine chart for that decade, and that'll be specifically bound for that 10 years of, okay, this is sort of an average player and what that would look like. For some years, in the dead ball era, there aren't many people, if any, who had 29 home runs or more. So some of those charts will be contextualized for the different eras of baseball. And maybe in today's game, it would need to be a player who had 35 home runs or more or something like that to sort of segregate them out so that they are sort of separated from the average player. Not that the average player is hitting 29 home runs or 30 home runs, but there are more players doing that now than there were back in the 1970s. So contextualizing those game engine charts a little bit. And then the really cool part about that is once you have multiple game engine charts, you can take players from 1979 and put them in 1922, or you can put them in 2022. So then you can sort of have some fun with the way the game has been played over the years, but still using the same card setup and the same game engine way of being the concept. So that is the game engine, and that's how that works. And this is going to be the chart that you're going to keep the most right next to you. You should print it out and just kind of have it there. If you wanted to put things like a stolen base chart or something like that on the other side, so you could just flip it and have it very easily, then that would be something to do as well. In the next video, I'm going to walk through some of the different charts that we have for strategy plays and also for the rare plays. So whenever you roll here, roll a 10, you're going to want to consult a chart for a rare play.